mind you, saying that, like I read a meme the other night. It said, they say it takes a village to raise a child with special needs. Is there a number to call or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I love that because
there's the village.
it
Where's
makes
the
me
village?
sad, though. It does make me sad because it's not that my family don't want to help with Oscar. Like, they
Yeah.
can't meet his needs. He
Yeah.
would not be safe in their care because as much as they love him and they do their best to understand him, they don't have the need. They don't have the right skills
This
to
is
meet his
what I
needs.
have
He
with
wouldn't
mine.
be safe in their care. He wouldn't be. I would never ever put that on my parents because
No.
as much as they would love to come and pick Oscar up in the car and take him out or take him for a walk or have him around their house, it's actually physically not safe to do that because he doesn't feel safe in their care. Like I don't think sometimes he feels safe in mine because he absconds. So if he's not safe with me and he makes those really reactive, quick decisions to just run off, how can my mum keep him safe? I would never put her in that position. And so when social workers and stuff are going, have you got a support network?
You always get that, don't you?
And then I feel like I'm getting the violins out, and I also feel a bit guilty because it feels like I'm slagging my family off, but I'm not.
You're not.
You're not. You shouldn't feel bad. Like my mum won't take Tommy out without my stepdad. My nan, bless her, won't take him out unless there's like me and my mum or me and Dave with her, because Tommy outruns most of us. It's only my stepdad that can keep up with him. So if because they live down in New Romney, so in the evenings they might go down to Greatstone Beach, but they'll wait until it's really quiet. But I say to my mum, you can't, I love you to pieces, but you cannot take Tommy on your own. Me and you can't go, because if he runs, which he does, and he goes straight for the sea and he don't stop, I can't keep up with him, you can't. But it's like my mum will do a lot indoors with if that makes sense, or like she'd take him down to hers and do a lot. But going out, it has to be, my stepdad has to be there.
Oscar can't even go around my mum's house because he'd just go to her front door and go outside. He don't want to be there.
They just choose not to help.
I was going to say
I'm not saying I'm not saying we have an abundance of offers, but I think the reason why we don't have offers is because of how Oscar presents, because he's a very spiky profile.
I remember when
it's not easy looking after a kid like that because he's quite resistant.
No, I remember when Brody was around, how old was I when I left my last job? Around 2. Obviously, I've been self-employed since he was around, I don't know, 3. And I remember trying to explain to people that the only person that can have my son on her own is my mum. No one else other than obviously me and Dean can have Brody on their own without one of us there. And they were like, what, you got no one? And I was like, I have no one. What part of there is no
so
one?
Annoying, isn't it?
Are you not getting
like people can't quite grasp it when you say
it's all right for you because look, I worked with people that would like literally like their 80-year-old grandmother and their 80-year-old mum would be looking after their kids, and I couldn't even fucking fathom that. And because he's everywhere, and like my mum's great with him, but she can't do a lot on her own with him because for the same reasons, if Brody legs it, she can't keep up. My sister and her partner are amazing with him, and he's absolutely obsessed with them. But there's only so much they can do. Like they might have him for a couple of hours, or they might be able to help for a bit. Like obviously, I get married in a couple of weeks, and I don't want to talk about that. And honestly, like my head in a minute. And they're both taking time off work to help my mum with him, so we can go away for 2 nights.
Yeah.
People like going on a honeymoon. It's like, how am I going to leave him for a week? There's no fucking way.
It's funny, isn't it, though? Because like when I had my other 2, because I've had like 2 parenting journeys. So I've had like the 2.4 kids that hit all their targets, that did everything, that ate everything, that slept all night. I've had weekends where I drop my kids to my mum's on a Friday and pick them up on a Sunday, or say, Mum, we want to go out. I was younger then. I'm 47 this year. But I've had nights where we went out on a bender, we went out with our mates, all of that. I haven't wanted to do that with Oscar, which is good because like we haven't actually had one single night out in 10 years. But I've had all of that because I've had 2 different parenting journeys. So when I had when I had my other 2, when I was having Oscar, I was 35. my kids stayed with my mum and dad for a week. I didn't see them.
Yeah.
I went in to be induced on the Monday. I didn't have Oscar till the Friday. And then my mum was like, oh, I'll keep him till like Monday and then go to school. And my kids were used to going to my mum and dad all the time. So when I think Oscar's never, ever stayed overnight there, it's weird. Because my other two kids had their own bedroom at my mum's. They had a different routine at my mum's. And they didn't bat an eyelid about going to nannies.
No.
But then when Oscar was
an eyelid going to my mum's at all. Like, he loves going to nanny's house. He's obsessed, and he'll stay there for a night. But like, when my mum has him for my honeymoon, that's gonna be the longest she's ever had him.
Yeah, she'll be on her toes, won't she?
She will be like, she can't even have a shower. Like, if it's just her and him, she panics and won't have a shower. And then it's like, the most she'll kind of do with him on her own is go to the park, even though she has taken him swimming once when I had COVID and he was literally climbing the walls and I thought I was going to die. I was like, please just take him swimming. So she came and took him swimming and he was fine, but it's not a regular thing. Like, my dad, bless it, like, my dad loves Brody, and he's even said it. He's like, I wouldn't feel safe.
No, that's the thing, isn't it? I think my child's needs far exceed the capabilities of who's offering.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's
yeah,
it. I mean, like you're saying, it's not slagging anyone off. It's not, you know, the truth is, my dad would love to have my, you know, Brody come round, and, you know, he'd love to have him round for sleepovers, and like, Brody loves his granddad. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, he'd love to take him to football, like to the football, and, you know, all those things. Like, my brother always said, like, when I told him I was having a boy, he was like, oh, wicked, I can take him to Charlton. And even not long ago, he's like, that ain't gonna happen, is it? I was like, probably not. Like, I'd have to be there, even though I think Charlton have a really good SEN.
Give him some time as well.
Give it time.
5-year-olds are hard work anyway. Do you know? Just give him some time.
Yeah, honestly. That's it. But I don't know. It's just one of those things where, like you're saying, you have the two different parenting journeys. I think because this is my only parenting journey. It's a lot.
It's hard because you feel
I've had the same one twice.
Yeah. Well, I've done it 3 times.
I've had it 3 times.
Yeah, and it's just the same. It's like Groundhog Day. Oh yeah.
But you feel like you're grieving a bit, don't you? Like, I don't know, because Tommy's my only child. He will be my only child. And I wouldn't change him for the world. I'd take his struggles away in a heartbeat, but I wouldn't change him for the world. But then I think I would have loved, it's hard as well because of how Tommy was when he was really little with that reaction. I didn't trust anyone. That was it. There was no way he was staying overnight anywhere and things like that. But I think I will never get this again.
Yeah.
It sounds really selfish, but I think
no, it's not.
People do with their kids, and I know Tommy's different, but I look and I think some of those things he's probably never going to do, which is fine. But it's almost like you feel like you've never got another shot. And I think that's
are you going to have more? Are you going to have more kids, Danielle?
No.
See, the thing is, the way I would reframe that, because I'm a big reframer, right? I've had kids that have met all their targets and done everything when they should have done, and generically like things when they should have done, you know, certain ages like Thomas, then they move on to something else, and then move, you know, and it's almost like a textbook. It is a bit boring. It's better to have kids that have got instructions that have been ripped up, stuck together, put in the wrong order, and you think, oh my God, my kid's Chinese and I don't speak Chinese. Because when Oscar was a baby, I used to feel like I was looking after someone else's baby that didn't speak my language, that didn't like me. Right? That's how I used to feel, because I used to feel like sometimes I was looking after a child that wasn't mine, because there wasn't really any way that I could let him know that it was all right. He was just really panicked and in a mess all the time, and he didn't want me near him, and he'd attack me and try and rip my hair out and throw things at me and bite me, and he just was trying to, it was almost like I was a stranger trying to take him away. That was like trying to even just feed him. He would fight me. He didn't want me, right? So when I often think, Danielle, you know, oh God, you know, he's 10, he's never going to do this, he's never going to do that, like his brother and all the rest of it. But what you have to do, think, is there are certain things that you do with Tommy that you wouldn't do if he wasn't the way he was.
Yeah.
And they're really special. Like, I am quite smug about that. I'm going to get my Christmases forever. Oscar's going to need me forever, because the parenting journey is over very quickly. Yeah. I struggled really badly. Ola's 22. She don't live at home anymore. That does not sit right with me, because the last time I blinked, she was 9, kicking off in barks, because she wanted the shoe with the key in the heel and I weren't buying them. It goes really quickly, and I think it isn't about what children generically do.
No.
I don't think it is. I think it's about, for me, having the 2 parenting journeys, I often feel guilty because I think I didn't enjoy some of the smaller things with Orla and Lorcan enough. I'm definitely enjoying all the smaller things with Oscar now because he don't give me a choice. We have to do a jigsaw puzzle 25 times. We have to do certain drawings every day in the same.
I've got to remember.
I'm telling you, I've got Elmer the elephant at the minute that we have to draw, and then I have to colour it in, and then Dean has to colour it in, and they have to do that at school as well. And even today, they're like, you know, he won't colour, and I'm like,
they colour Elmer in. Give him Elmer.
If Oscar won't have colour on anything, you go, do you want to do some drawing, mate? And he opens his desk, and it's really cute in my kitchen. Brendan and I went to the same primary school, and we used to have oak, really old-fashioned desks. When they were ripping out my old primary school, they were giving them away outside, and we've actually got one of the desks that we used to sit at when we were younger in my kitchen, and he's got all his art stuff in it. I did have a look. It wasn't the one that my friend Jess drew a penis on when we were in year 6, but I was hoping to get that one because we went to a convent. It was like a really big, oh my God. So he'll open his desk and he gets his paper out. And as you get the paper out, he shouts out, just biros. And he will only do drawing with a bloody biro. And then he it's really annoying because he draws and then he gets his finger and he rubs it. So he's always got black fingerprints. He won't have no Crayolas or colours.
Yeah.
Pen drawn, and then yeah, pen drawn. But I don't know about your guys, but Oscar goes through like stages. So like he'll go for a stage where he'll play with Play-Doh only over again, everywhere, all over my dining table. But like 20 million sets of Play-Doh.
Can I just say as well what Danielle was saying earlier about the morning.
Yeah.
From my point of view, because I literally, when you were speaking, I felt like I'd said those words so many times. Like, I wouldn't change my kids for the world. Absolutely adore them. I would take away their struggles in a heartbeat. And I did go through that stage where I did mourn the children I expected to have. So like before Chase was born, I was pregnant, and I used to say, he's only going to eat really healthy food.
That was me.
All these languages. He's going to learn all of these, you know, special musical instruments, and he's going to learn how to do a martial art, and you know, they're really silly things.
Yeah.
And yet, when he was born, he was under a dietitian because he wouldn't eat anything up until a certain age. He couldn't speak, so he definitely weren't going to speak several languages. He's dyspraxic, so he struggles with musical instruments and so on and so forth. And I did mourn the child that I expected to have. But as time has gone on, he has far exceeded this child that I thought I wanted to have. And he is amazing. He plays an instrument. It's not necessarily the piano or the guitar, which we expected. He plays the drums because he finds it easier to play the drums. I took him to football club and he didn't last because he struggles to play football because of his dyspraxia and his coordination. He now plays basketball instead. He was very delayed in his speech, but now he is talking and he's managed to catch up, and there are areas that he struggles, but we find our way through them. And so try not to think that this is it, because your child's gonna, you know, meet a new milestone, and you're going to celebrate even more than, as Kelly said, the parents who follow that regimented timetable in the red book where they meet those particular milestones, and you're going to really notice it and appreciate it. And
I don't think it's wrong though, is it? I don't think it's wrong to sit and think. I know we all beat ourselves up and we make ourselves guilty about it, but I don't think it's wrong to sit and think, I wonder who they would be. I wonder what they would be.
They wouldn't be them. That would be a completely different child.
Yeah.
Exactly.
To be honest, I think Oscar would be a little bit of a little shit, because if you think about it, his older sister's 22, his brother's 16. I think he would be a little bit of an entitled, you know, we travel quite a lot. We've got a nice garden. I think he would be a little bit of an entitled, annoying brat. That's what I think, you know, hot tub in the garden, 2 dogs, toys in abundance. I think he'd be annoying. I like the innocent side of Oscar. That's every morning, like this morning, he woke up and it could have been Christmas morning. He was that excited. He didn't know why. Nothing new's happening in the house. It's just Tuesday. He was in such a good mood. He was regulated. He was ready for the day. And I said to Lorcan, you know, there's beauty in that. You know, teenager can't get up. Everything's crap. He's got to go to school, you know, having a moan. And I just said, you know what? He's just woken up and everything is just right. And I think there's a real beauty in that. So I'm not sure I'd like normal 10-year-old Oscar.
No.
Because I remember Lorcan at 10 and they are annoying.
What though? I feel like Chase has turned into the young man that I wanted him to be. I think that's
in many ways,
yeah, because like that little boy, if anything, he's better than the boy I wanted. Do you know what I mean? Because of the journey he's been on, that has crafted him and made him the person he is now, because he's had to go about life in a different way, and because of how we've had to parent him, I do feel like that has made him kinder and have more empathy, and he understands not just living in this box and ignorant to, you know, the struggles that people have in the world. So I feel like my point is like you guys kids are so again, Kelly,
he's got a lived experience of what it's like to struggle and
that is a part of his journey, and I just feel like I'm actually happier with who he is than the child I kind of envisioned, if that makes sense. So I think my point is that at Brody's age, at Tommy's age, he was in a very similar situation. He was non-verbal, he was struggling, he was behind with it, he wasn't meeting his milestones, he was really struggling. So don't like just try and keep the faith of it, maybe if that's the right words to use, or like keep that determination, keep on fighting the good fight, because it can pay off. I know obviously all of our kids are different and all of our kids are individual, and sometimes it may not, but at the same time, maybe just try and keep that optimism. Don't feel like, obviously Amber, earlier you were getting really upset and you say you feel like you failed in certain areas. You haven't. You've done amazing. Do you know what I mean?
I just think as well, guys, they're babies yet. Give them time to
Yeah,
grow.
they're still so young.
Give them time to grow. They're babies yet. You know, like I used to think Oscar wouldn't really achieve many targets. I was just happy to get to the end of the day with all my teeth. And in the last year, he has blown me away, and it's because we removed the demands and we stopped setting the bloody targets. Just let him grow into, you know, in the last year he's gained all his weight back. Obviously a year ago he nearly died from the ARFID relapse. In the last year he's gained all his weight back and he's now dry in boxers all the time.
Amazing.
Not something a year ago that I would ever have put, and it's not something that I've forced. I just think, you know, if you think about birth to now and how amazing they are and how much they've done, and think about the next 5 years to be even more, but I don't think it's bad to think about who they would be. I do.
Yeah, I've never sat there and thought, oh, who would he be? Because like we were saying earlier, I think sometimes there's a misconception that autism is, there's the normal person and then there's the autism stuff on top.
You can't separate them out,
and
can
if you separate, there would be a normal child underneath or a normal adult. Like there's no medication that I could take that would remove
autism.
I get that.
But
I do think it's when children have comorbid stuff though, because for me, the way I identify Oscar's autism is it's his skills, it's his barriers, it's his challenges, and then him, his personality, is who he is. But when you are dealing with other things like learning disability, pathological demand avoidance, and all of those things that do like ADHD, they do impact your personality. But the autism side of it, you know, if someone said to me, could I take that away from Oscar? I'd say certainly not, because he wouldn't be Oscar.
No.
And everybody's an individual, even like neurotypical people. You have personalities, you have certain, you know, ways people are, you have the outside world that influences people. It's not just you're autistic, you're not. That's not how it works.
But I would take away, I 100% would take away the challenging behaviour. Oscar does have extremely challenging behaviour, and at points is quite hard to like when he's being like that.
Yeah.
You know, that's not autism, that's not ADHD, that is something, you know, when a child has deliberate challenging behavior and they want to smash you in the face because they feel like it, it's really hard to parent a child like that, and you do have to separate out. And I think this is where the term parent carer comes in, because I've been having that, but I do see that side of it, because there are elements of that are parenting, but then there are also elements of that are caring. You know, because not just because you're someone's parent doesn't mean that you should have to, you know, deal with smearing or someone hurting you, or, you know, they're the parts that you could easily remove, still have your child and have a nice journey. But so for me, I think there are some elements of Oscar's care due to the challenging behavior that are a carer's role.
Yeah, definitely.
No, absolutely.
You know? But I do think my other two children are so much better people for having a brother that has those challenges, because Orla became a young carer at 11, Lorcan was 6. So they haven't had a completely free childhood, because they've had those restraints and barriers and all the rest of it. And, you know, probably very stressed parents at points when we've been unsupported. But I think we do put too much pressure on ourselves, even with children with complex multiple needs. I think that we put pressure on ourselves that our children have to fit a form and, you know, meet a target or sit in a certain lane. So you just celebrate who they are. They're all great kids.
I think this is more kind of what I'm trying to say. Like, I wouldn't change him, and I've got no wish to change him. And we don't have any demands around his schooling. Like, even when the teacher earlier was like, oh, you know, he's not doing this, not doing that, I was like, we don't put pressure on him, and I'm not going to start now. Like, I don't sit with him. If he wants to get a book out and we read it, great. If he doesn't, fine. You know, if he wants to sit and do writing, great. If he doesn't, fine. Like, do you know what I mean? I don't put any pressure on him, and to be fair, they're in agreement with me, which is good. I think it's more, I feel I kind of understood what Dan was saying, because it's your only child and you're not going to have any more children. One, I feel kind of robbed, because it's not Brody, it's not my child, it's the systems that surround us. If there was support in place, and if there was, you know, I could take my son to any club and there was support. If I could take my son to school, drop him, know he's going to be okay, and pick him up, I would have 10 kids. I would have 10 autistic kids. I literally would not care. I wouldn't even know what to do with a neurotypical child, to be quite honest.
Lovely as well.
Like,
such a lovely little boy.
Yeah, he is. I would have him. Like, he's funny, he's, you know, loving, he's kind, he's caring, like, he worries about people. Like, you know, like earlier one of his friends was crying, he was like, why is she crying? Like, he was so like, you know, is she okay? Like, you know, he worries about, he cares about people. But if the support was in place, I would have more. But like, fuck, am I doing this again? That's my thing.
That's so horrible that you should feel like that, because
I actually feel like I'm so traumatized by I feel like I'm so traumatized by, like, the lack of fucking support and how things have been with school and how things have been with the system and how things have been with everything, that I just think I'm not doing it again. I'm not going to bring another child into this world who more than likely will be the same, because let's face it, we've got genetics on both sides. Everyone's like, oh, you know, that might not happen. No, it might not happen, but the likelihood is it will.
It probably will.
And I think it would be, personally for me, and this isn't a judgment on anyone, obviously, Corinne, you got 3. This is not judgment at all, and everyone has to do what they want to do. I personally would feel I would be irresponsible, because I know my bandwidth wouldn't be able to do it. And we don't have the village. We don't have the village. If I had, you know, my mum next door or my mum up the road, and he could go there whenever, and, you know, I had abundance of fucking help, then yeah, maybe. I haven't even got my in-laws here. My in-laws live
you know the worst part of that, Amber, that you said though?
Yeah.
He is the loveliest little boy. Even the other day, hello, mummy's friend.
Yeah.
He's so sweet, he's so caring, he's happy. These are the kind of things that we should be encouraging our children to be like. These are you should be celebrated for being such a nice child. And then they should be focused on that whilst helping him in the areas that he struggles.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't feel like anyone sees him the way that like I see him and like you guys see him and the
How they
people
should
who know
see
him.
him.
I don't feel
Exactly.
like it's
It's
like
because
that.
you're not getting the support, and that's the thing. Because I felt exactly. Obviously, you can't feel exactly the same as somebody else. I get
No,
that.
you
But
feel
I was very
like,
much where you were this time last year because the ONA weren't supporting Tommy, and you almost feel robbed as well. So for me, I wouldn't know what to do with a neurotypical child, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm never going to get that first day of school back. I'm never going to get
No.
those reception years
This
back.
is what I've said to the school. I've said this to
You
them. I'm
can't,
like,
yeah,
you
you're
have
not
to
seeing his good points. All you're doing is focusing on his negatives. Now, I understand to a degree for certain things, EHCP, DLA, this, that, and the other, that's got to be done. But not only are you not focusing on anything he is capable of doing, you're placing limits on him because you're not supporting him. And I think, or how it comes across to me, and I could have read it completely wrong, is you feel so guilty because you feel it's your fault that Brody's in this situation, and it's not. The school have failed you, KCC have failed you, speech and language have failed you. But because it's very easy for them, and it's the best thing for them to do, to pile on and say, not our problem, it's your son, it's Brody. Brody's this, we had it with Tommy, it's because Tommy won't do this, it's because of your parenting. And you feel like this was my one shot. You want to be a mum more than anything in the world. You know this is your one and only, so you put everything into your child, whether they were neurotypical or neurodivergent, you'd have done the same. But everybody's beating your child down, and you think, I'm never going to get this back. And I think for us as well, because of how we've had to go through the system and the fight that we've had and still got, it's very rare you get to enjoy any of that time. I feel from when Tommy pretty much was in the last 6 months of nursery up until probably only a couple of months ago, I haven't really been able to enjoy any of that time. Then I feel guilty because I feel I haven't spent enough time with him. I feel that I've been too stressed, and then you feel like a bad mum, and it perpetuates and it goes round in that circle. All the while you're trying to do best for Brady, and I'm trying to do best for Tommy. You've got a system that places limits on them because they can't be bothered. Because it's just like, we kids autistic, what difference are they going to make in the world? I had it from Jill Vinyl at KCC. She told me, why are you fighting? Why are you fighting for Tommy to get an EHCP? And I said, it's his right, and because, you know, without that, he won't be able to learn in any setting. Well, when he's 16, he's going to have to go into the big world. He's not going to get support. I said he will, because I'm not sure.
He doesn't take until they're 25.
No, and she just said, well, he's going to grow up and be an adult, so we best get used to it. Yeah, but her attitude is get used to it because he's going to be a drain on taxpayers' money. And that's very much KCC's attitude.
Disgusting. Ken are disgusting because what they're not doing is they're not supporting your children make those core memories, but they're also very narcissistic because they're not supporting parents to do it either, and they're making you feel guilty about it. It's abusive.
Move to London.
It's gaslighting, isn't it?
I grew up on a fucking council estate, the other side of Bromley. So Bromley's a weird area because it's kind of Kent, it's kind of London. But the other side of Bromley, you've got like Catford, and you've got areas in between like Grove Park and like Downham. So I grew up in Grove Park, for anyone that's listening that kind of knows South East London. And I lived opposite the school there, and I went to the school there that had an SRP. That is one of the top fucking rated SRPs in the country. And I fucking moved thinking I was doing the right thing. Like, we moved as a family. My mum went
I'd like to move
area.
I'd like to move to somewhere like New Zealand or somewhere like that.
No, you can't. We can't move to, babe. You know, we can't move to New Zealand.
Why?
They don't allow autistic people to move to New Zealand.
Are you?
Well, I will lie.
Did you guys not know that?
No,
no. If you've got an adult diagnosis of autism, they will not. You cannot immigrate to New Zealand. And say if you're an immigrant, so say if I was neurotypical or I wasn't diagnosed autistic, on my life, look it up. There was a case not long ago of a family who immigrated from England or America, I can't remember where it was. They immigrated to New Zealand. their daughter had very severe autism and like learning difficulties. They were trying to deport the 5-year-old. They wanted to deport the 5-year-old.
Oh, fuck them, I ain't moving there. They sound like arseholes.
No, I'm sorry, excuse me, I'm going to beat that. When it comes to autism, I don't know what their stance is on ADHD. That is why
That's terrible.
Adults
That's ridiculous.
not get a diagnosis and they self-diagnose, and self-diagnosis is valid. This is one of the many reasons, because, and it's not the only country. There's I think Australia have got pretty shady thing on it, South Africa, parts of America. It's very hard. France, they won't have it. France have got like no.
France. Well, it's funny you should say that, because when Oscar was a baby, he had a very serious head injury, which I've obviously spoken about before, but that happened in France. And up until that point, I'd always kind of had my eye on Brendan's parents' house in France, because it's in Bordeaux. It's got a lovely big garden, and literally in the village, it's literally got like a pub and a baker's. It's beautiful. Yeah. Anyway, I started to find out a little bit about French people. I don't want to move there. They have institutions still in France for autistic.
Yeah, very. There's very offended. I don't know about Well, then you've got other countries, like obviously I have a lot of South Asian followers, and I've had lots of conversations in my DMs and things, and so many have said like their homeland doesn't even have a word, their language doesn't have a word for autism.
No, and I've just recently been to Egypt, as you know, and it's not recognised as a diagnosis at all, and neither is disability. So in the airport, you just met with a man with a machine gun, and he took Oscar away, and the women get checked by a woman, and the men get checked by a man, and they took Oscar out of his buggy, took his iPad off him, put his buggy through the machine, checked him by security guard with machine gun, and let him walk into the airport on his own.
We never had that. We had special assistants. They pushed the kids in wheelchairs.
What,
not at the airport? Not in the airport I was in.
I must admit, when we went to Tenerife, and they were amazing.
Yeah, they were really good in Egypt. They literally wheeled the kids.
I think they used their niceness up on you, Charlotte, because we didn't have that.
That's crazy, because they literally, when we came off the plane, they met us, took us through security like VIPs, skipped all the queues, took us, even got our visas for us, and on the way back, as we got there, they were waiting at the gate. And
I had to jump the queue. We got to Egypt really late at night. The queue was hours long. And I showed them my lanyard, and I went special assistance, and the bloke went, no, get to the back, this is shut. And I literally, bold as brass, walked to the front of the queue. Brendan was going, stop it. I was like, no, I'm waiting here all night. We're going now. I got to the front of the queue, and I literally went to the bloke, please. And he went, come on. And everyone in the queue was moaning, but we would have been there like 3 hours.
Oh no, we had special assistants there and back, and they were waiting for us at the gate.
Unless you have to book that, but it wasn't available.
No, I don't. Well, obviously we had our lady who did all the booking for us, and she.
Yeah, no, we didn't. See, I did my usual, Charlotte. I booked my hotel separate and my flight separate, and I just did it.
You had your hot tub on the balcony.
I did it all myself. But no, I don't want to move to France. I've also been to America, and they have behaviour hospitals, which are very close environments that the children go to. And
they're very ABA.
America's
horrible videos of adults hurting children and all of that. Secret videos. Remember, you see them on the bum hole.
We should all just move to London and live in peace and harmony. I know it's not.
Honestly, I think.
I know we slag Kent off. I do think the UK is one of the most progressive.
Yeah. We're lucky where we are.
100%. In terms of supports that are offered countrywide, and projects, and the amount of peer support that's growing, and training that's available. But
it's the bum hole.
Kent is the bum hole of Britain, because there's 3 times the amount of SEN kids in Kent than there is.
I always thought Kent was posh.
Kent's not posh.
This is the problem, though. It's Toryland. That's the problem. When you've got areas that are multicultural, they're run by Labour or Lib Dem or whatever, and they have to be inclusive because there's so many different diversities. When you've got areas like this, like where I am, it's a very white middle class area. Everyone's flipping Tory, like not everyone, but like the older ones are, and there is a generic attitude. I mean, on the whole, we've never had any issues in this village. It's a very close-knit village. Everyone's nice, and we've never had any issues. I mean, he's kicked off in multiple shops. The shop around here know us. The amount of times he's walked out with 3 sweets out of our local shop because he's kicked off, and they're like, "Oh, don't worry,
I'll PayPal you."
Yeah, literally. I'm not, and I've actually gone back like a day later and paid for like an ice cream and things because like he's kicked off and whatever. There was a day that Dean had accidentally taken my bank card, not accidentally, he'd used my bank card for something and then not put it back, and my phone had died, so I didn't have my Apple Pay, and he was going absolutely mental, and they were like, honestly, he can have it, it's fine. So like, do you know what I mean? It's
whereas mine would call the cops on me and get me
yeah. So in some ways we've had like a really positive experience, but in other ways, like my local swimming baths are really good. He, like both my local ones, like I've gone in and just said I'm a carer. They've not asked for any proof. Like, do you know what I mean? They've obviously they've seen it, and you know, we've gone in, everything's been fine. I've got an arrangement with my local swimming baths because you can't book online. It's one of them ones where you just turn up. So they're just like, no, ring ahead, like tell us who you are, and like we'll put you down so we don't have a queue, which is amazing. So in some ways we've had a really positive experience, but in others it's just been, it just like, and this is what my mum always says, like there's always an obstacle. And when I was growing up, obviously I was diagnosed in 1996, so I was a diagnosed kid. I was non-verbal until I was 6, and my mum never had any of this what we have. It was just she never even filled out a form for me. Everyone like, she just went, oh, this is my daughter, this is her needs, and the council did everything. And this was
I had that experience with Chase.
Yeah, no, but
pretty much the same with Remy.
Were amazing. Now they're one of the worst boroughs.
Yeah, see, like where we are, I think that the difference between different boroughs and where we are, if you go to a different borough, you might be the minority, and it might be an absolute pleasure to put those things in place for you. Where we live, we're a fucking pain in the arse because the women.
We're another one. Yeah.
I have to say the services have changed.
That is where
in London, they're not as good as they were.
That's where that disgusting attitude belongs in the councils.
Yeah.
How are we going to stop?
How's it in Grimsby?
How are there so many?
I've noticed you've been really quiet.
Shit.
Oh,
they're not good. I wouldn't say they're as bad as Kent, but we're like, Grimsby's are very much like you were saying, Amber. We're very like a lot of white people around here. It's very, you feel like you're back in the 70s because it's like everyone's got them views and stuff. So that's really difficult. But there are so many SEN kids. I think we've got like a really high rate of children with SEN needs in Grimsby as well. But it's just there's no.
Why do
there's no support?
But why do you think why has it all gone up so much in the last few years? Because
what they done was, I was told when Oscar was very small, it was concentrating on early intervention, early diagnosis. He's the same age as Chase. Chase was diagnosed, wasn't he? Very young. So was Oscar. Oscar was diagnosed.
So was Caleb.
Chase was too.
And they really rolled it out. And so now services, you see, are flooded with the children that received those diagnoses, because those children years before would still have been in the system and getting those diagnoses at 11, 12 at that transitional stage. But then they did a massive push in the borough to get those children diagnosed before they started school. So those children now have flooded all of the services. So they caused
an awareness, babe,
and they haven't. What they've done is they've caused it, and they haven't planned for that amount of children to be in the system. So they haven't done the balancing of the services.
A TikTok, and it really triggered me. I forgot to send it to you. And it was a girl saying, and she's a teacher, she's like, I've been a teacher for like 12 years. I was a TA before that, so I've been like, in the education system, like as a teacher or an educator for like however many years. And she went, what is going on with the children of millennials? Because she was like, before you would have a class of 30 and maybe like 2 or 3 that were struggling. Now you've got a class of 30 and there's only 2 or 3 that are actually meeting target, and the rest of them are struggling. And she's like, what is it? Like, what has happened in the last generation that's made these children like it? Is it gentle parenting? Is it the pandemic? Is it screen time? Like, what is going on?
I think it's a mixture of things, but because obviously the diagnosis,
isn't it?
Like
kids are in SEN schools. So because of that, you've got more children in the community, for want of a better word. You've got early intervention, early support. You've got, it's not easier to get diagnosed, but it's easier to be believed once you get your foot in the door. And I think more and more people are aware. So whereas like a friend of mine who is in something else that we do, she got on to her health visitor, had a really hard time, but she would not stop banging that door down until she was seen by a paediatrician, her son was seen, because she knew the journey we'd been through with Tommy. And I think more people are aware, and because mainstreams don't have the funding, they don't have the support, they're not, the teachers don't necessarily have the right training. 5-10 years ago, it was the naughty kids, we can't control them, or out of sight, out of mind. It's very much in the forefront of people's minds these days, I think. And the problem is, as well, is a lot of children who were labelled naughty children, parents aren't tolerating it. Whereas I think back to when I was at secondary school, so you're going back, what, 16, 17 years since I left? 5 kids in my English class were labelled as the naughty.
So how old are you, Danielle?
31.
All right.
Me and Danielle, Danielle and Corinne are all the same age.
And then we're the oldies.
Corinne, no,
nearly. I'm the baby.
Corinne.
In June.
She's 30 this year.
Baby.
Joining the 30 club. Yeah, I'm 32 in April.
So
I'm officially in my late 30s.
Our birthdays are bang on each other, aren't they?
Yeah. But I think that's what it is. There's more known about it, and I think, I don't know.
Do you know what? Me and Luke
we're a pushy generation, aren't we? Not a pushy generation in a bad thing, but I think we seem to be a generation that won't take no for an answer. Not if no is genuinely the right answer, but whereas before, like when we were ill as kids, my mum would always be worried about being like, I don't quite believe that, I want a second opinion. And it's only because of what happened to my uncle. He passed away when he was 13. The doctor misdiagnosed him, told my nan it was the flu. It wasn't, it was meningitis. And he died 20 minutes later after the doctor walked out of the house. Like, we're going back to the early 80s. So there was a huge thing, like my nan would always say to my mum, if you're not happy with how the girls are, push it. But my mum said they were of the generation that if that hadn't have happened to Tom, she wouldn't have been so forceful. Whereas for me, it doesn't matter if it's Tommy or a friend's child, or it doesn't matter whether they've got any additional needs or not. I'm like, if you're not happy, you need to speak up, get a second opinion. And I wonder if maybe that's why, because I don't think it's any more prevalent. And it pisses me off that it's the lazy parenting, it's the screen time. You've got the parents that go out clubbing. And I think that it's genetic. I just think it's more known about.
Well, there's a lot of people that it's I first started. So when I first started talking about neurodivergence and so on, nobody else really was. And as time has gone on, more and more people are. And from the first time I posted, when Chase was very, very first diagnosed, I did a really long Facebook post. And after I did that, loads of people reached out and they were like, oh my God, I watched your post. Can you tell me more? Because I've also noticed these things in my children. And it's a ripple effect, because then they're sharing their experience, and more people are hearing about our experiences, and it's resonating with them. And that's all it takes. Awareness leads to people like I got late diagnosed because I was raising awareness and learned stuff myself. Do you know what I mean? I've had friends that I went to school with, friends whose kids, they recognize things that I speak about, and then their children go and get diagnosed. Or people that were in my class at school, one girl lives in Australia and she's now been diagnosed just from hearing and raising awareness. And it's social media, because we're able, that's how we've all met.
Powerful.
Of the constant raising of awareness. And that is all it takes, is hearing about people's situations, and not thinking that actually, you know, you watch Rain Man and that is what autism is hearing that actually, you know, there's women out there who present in a different way, there's children and then learning what a spectrum is. And that is why I believe there is so many more people now, because a few years ago they would have been labelled as naughty or maybe a bit weird or a bit shy or
whatever.
Exactly, but
you
it's
look
not.
through your family finance. I've said this to a lot. So if you
I
go
think
through
that there's more people being diagnosed, and that's fantastic. And I think that shows real growth, doesn't it, in the way that we're studying autism, what we're finding out about autism, and other things. But everything else I feel needs to catch up.
I agree.
All of those services, because Amber, you're not stressed out, upset and tired tonight because your kid's autistic. You're stressed out, upset and tired tonight because you're not supported, because the services are not there.
Exactly. It's the world around us that's
not the children that we have,
No.
it's the services. We cannot raise our children on our own. Yeah. So the services that should be there to help us raise our children, to help them have experiences, enjoy the world, achieve things.
Yeah.
And live their best lives are not quite there. And if they are, it's not even across the UK, and it should be, because of all of our children have an equal right to that help, which then causes parent guilt, parent burnout, parents to be upset, parents to feel like they're failing, which ultimately robs you of those early years and those experiences that you should have. But it will add to your resilience as a parent, I think, and then you'll celebrate later on down the line. So it will even out. But it's the services, and if they knew that they were going to have a really big push on early diagnosis for children, which then raises the percentage of children that are in those services, they knew they were doing that. Why did they not plan forward to raise the services by that amount?
Because they're reactive, aren't they?
No, they're crap.
But they react. They're never proactive. It's like with
it's
what's going on in
crisis.
Kent, isn't it? With the Katie model, we won't be proactive and get things. It's okay. We'll throw this out there, and then it all
don't feel
comes
like they're even
tumbling down.
reacting. I don't even feel like they're reacting. I spoke to someone in a CAMS team not too long ago, and they said, I don't know what's going on. The numbers are going up. The demand is going up, but they're reducing our resources, and we can't.
They have to, because it's going to, the reality is that no one's speaking about it, and they need to. The reality is all of those services are going bankrupt. They have to do this, because if they don't, there will not be any services at all. And rather than holding their hands up and being honest about it and saying, we have run this into the ground, we are not planning financially, we have ruined this for everyone, we need to scrap it and start again, they won't. They will do the British upper lip, keep proud, keep getting it wrong, and in the end, there won't end up being a service. So rather than having a national crisis about it and saying, do you know what, this is in such a mess, we're never going to be able to save it, but we're going to be really transparent with you so that everyone can have a good idea of how big the problem is. Yeah, so that then we all go, okay, well, it ain't their fault. They are trying, but they don't do that. They're proud, they showboat, and then the lying comes, and then people don't trust them.